Welcome to the Friday edition of Once World, and I'll apologize right now for my absence in the past week or so and my continuing absence in November and December. I expect my writing and publishing are overwhelming me, but I'll pop up now and again as things arise. And so, as it happens, the past couple of weeks I've been working with pork bellies. You can't get them too often in either the UK or the US, but they're very popular in Asia. You can get them everywhere. And the example you can see here of a very fat pork belly, which I was going to roast, and then I thought, no, I'll make some bacon. So let's talk about that. Now, there's no particular reason why I should make bacon, given that I can buy bacon in the supermarket, except for the fact that homemade bacon is very different from store-bought bacon for all kinds of reasons. And you can actually make bacon from pork bellies in a number of different ways. I used a fairly standard method of taking the belly, coating it very generously with kosher salt, and then sprinkling it with liquid smoke and placing it in a zip-top bag in the refrigerator for a week or so, turning it once a day just to make sure that everything was evenly coated for the entire week. I don't know how long you can do this, although a lot of people say that you shouldn't do it for too long because the belly becomes tough over time. But I actually ended up leaving mine for 2 weeks and it was fine. And I did 2 of them in the end, and then had to decide, what am I going to do with them? Well, the first thing I did, took one of the bellies out, chopped it up, and sauteed it with some leeks as a prelude to sauteing a buffalo steak, which I'd had in the freezer for a long time. Trying to clean out my freezer a little bit because it was getting a little stuffed. And I found this buffalo steak, so I put it in the saute pan with the bacon and the leeks, and that gave it a nice savor, and just pretty much ate it that way, but I didn't eat all of it because I don't eat that much. I ate about half of it, and then the other half I saved for another dish, which I'll talk about in a minute. The other part of that first belly that I had used for the buffalo I should say, not bison, that's a wrong continent, it's European buffalo, well, I don't know, maybe Asian buffalo, was that I roasted the other half of the belly, which was now some bacon-ish, and roasted it with some potatoes. So I ended up with roast bacon and roast potatoes, a wonderful, very simple dish. And that was the first belly. The second belly, I had decided I was going to make bacon and cabbage, which is a very old Irish traditional dish, but you can make it in a number of different ways, and I did. The first way you can make it is to fry the ingredients. So I have a big skillet, and same deal again. This time I used an onion and some leeks and the bacon. and you have to saute them off. Now, I don't want to get the onions browned in any way, but I do want them softened up, and I do need to get the bacon fat or the pork fat fried out of the pieces. So in they go into the pan, and then comes the cabbage. Now here's the cabbage that I used. I would have in Europe or in the United States have used a green cabbage, but they're very hard to find in Asia. In fact, even finding these kind of European cabbages are not necessarily all that easy. This one was quite white, and so I cut it in half, as you can see here, and then just shredded it down. And once the bacon and the onions had fried off, in goes the cabbage, fry, done. Now the thing is that you've got to be very brief, and that is true, I mean, of a lot of things, but it's certainly true of cabbage. One of the reasons I used to hate cabbage as a boy was that my mother used to boil it to death. Boil, and when you eat it, it doesn't taste like anything. But it's soft and not very pleasant. Whereas if you fry the cabbage for at most 5 minutes at high heat and toss it around in the bacon and the onions, then you have a delectable dish. And here it is. Now the other choice is boiled bacon and cabbage. And for that, you first of all have to make a stock or a broth. And so pretty much the same routines, just a different method. That in goes bacon, onions and leeks into a broth, and simmer. I actually simmered this one all day. Normally I'm not quite that profligate, but I have an induction burner, and so I don't mind just having it on very low for a long period of time. I wouldn't do it with my gas because I don't want to have to replace my propane gas every whip stitch. So make the stock one day, and then the next day come back and pile in your cabbage. And same rule as with frying. 5 minutes, that's it. Just get the stock nice and bubbling. In goes the cabbage. Stir it around constantly to make sure it's cooking. Done. And then my last task, well, I'm not sure of the chronology here, but my last task here anyway was to take the remains of the buffalo and bacon and make them into a soupy stew, if you like. That is, I put the bacon and the bison. There we go again. Buffalo. I haven't lived in the United States for 15 years, and I'm still thinking in those terms. You put the buffalo and the bacon into a pot with the stock, and add your vegetables. And they can be pretty much anything you want, but I chose carrots, celery, potatoes, and mushrooms. And then do your thing. I think I probably simmered these all together for around, I'd say an hour. Probably not much less. Because I wanted to make sure that the buffalo was nice and tender, and that all of the flavors were combined. Now, I then put everything in the refrigerator overnight, and next day reheated, because that's my standard policy. Is if you have watched any of my videos before, you'll know if I'm making a soup or a stew, I always make it the day before, refrigerate overnight, and then reheat and reseason if necessary the next day. So, so there is pork belly in my sort of, I don't know, South American, European, Asian style. And hope you like my recipes. Please like, please subscribe, and have a good weekend. I don't know when I'll be back, but I will be back. Be assured of that. Take care.